to my party. We're just getting started. A life is a dream.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast. I am Matt, and now today I wasn't planning on really covering this topic, especially in this podcast. The stream was just too significant really to ignore. And of course, I'm talking about Avengers Doomsday casting reveal that was 5 hours long a few days ago, where every 15 minutes they were showing a new chair and revealing a new cast member for the movie. There are some pretty big key takeaways. This is only a partial cast reveal. We're looking at about 27 names when the core cast is rumored to be between 60 and 65 characters. Okay, to put that in perspective, this announcement is smaller than the Infinity War cast, and both The Hollywood Reporter and Marvel themselves have confirmed that more casting news is coming imminent. I'm going to probably guess San Diego Comic-Con. Robert Downey Jr. even teased more cast members coming with a tweet that read, "A deep bench of talent, so buckle up because we're far from done." So why did they announce all of this? And what is significant about all of this? Well, when we talk about this, we got to first go into what this casting shows us. We got the full Fantastic Four team, the Thunderbolts minus Taskmaster, potentially giving away the ending to Thunderbolts. Thor, Loki, Ant-Man, Sam Wilson, Joaquin Torres, Falcon, Shuri, Black Panther, M'Baku, Shang-Chi, Namor, and of course, Robert Downey Jr. as the man himself, Dr. Doom. Or is he playing both Tony Stark and Dr. Doom? I don't know. Maybe I can break this down a little bit, because this is, ever since this casting announcement, I've seen some videos and it's kind of gotten my brain turning a little bit about how this is all going to work. So I'm going to hopefully break it all down, at least how it, in my mind, I think it can work. Now, you might not agree with me. I'll be definitely interested to hear what you have to say and what you think in the comment section below. But this is just first hand knowledge of the casting announcements the other day and just kind of the comic book events and storylines and where this takes me when I think about this stuff. Now, a quick observation is that Robert Downey Jr.'s appearance was starkly similar to Tony Stark's. I mean, of course, you know, he's Robert Downey Jr., so you just single-handedly interchange Robert Downey Jr. with Tony Stark, or at least I do. So you, whenever you see him, you just see Tony Stark. And he had the facial hair, the same haircut. I think that was done on purpose. And I'll tell you in a little bit why I think that was done on purpose. Could it be a hint about Dr. Doom's connection to Tony? As the Russo brothers have confirmed that Tony Stark's sacrifice in Avengers Endgame did directly connect to the upcoming Avengers Doomsday film, and that Dr. Doom's story will be intertwined with it, with Robert Downey Jr. stepping into the role of Dr. Doom. That's why they had to cast him as Doom. There was no question that he was going to be Doom. It was just, I think they've planned on having him as Doom for a long time, and it was just news to us when they shocked the world with it at San Diego Comic-Con. You can check out one of my previous videos where I have the actual footage from San Diego Comic-Con and the announcement of Robert Downey Jr. being the new Doom, as I was there in person. Some surprises in this include a returning Namor and Lewis Pullman as Sentry. This automatically makes me think that Namor's role as part of the Illuminati and his involvement with Dr. Doom in the Time Runs Out storyline will heavily influence this movie. It'll be well represented in this movie. And the stuff with King Thanos and everything like that will potentially come into play in this. Because, you know, if you know the storyline, Namor is part of the Illuminati who are trying to stop the incursions, and they're thinking that if you kill off, you have to kill off one planet, and they're using plasma grenades to do so. And Captain America doesn't want him to, so they wipe his memory, yada, yada, yada. And so at some point, the rest of the Illuminati kind of say, what are we doing here? We shouldn't do this. Namor disagrees, thinks they should continue on, goes to Thanos, doesn't like the way Thanos is running his people. So then he goes to Doom, and Doom turns him away because, well, he's Doom and he's petty. And he says, nah, you should have come to me first. And because you didn't come to me first, that insults me and my intelligence. So good day, sir. Paraphrasing, of course. The most shocking reveal, I think, about all this stuff to me came by the way of the X-Men announcement. You got Kelsey Grammer's Beast Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn returning as Mystique, James Marsden as Cyclops, Patrick Stewart as Xavier, Ian McKellen as Magneto, and of course, the odd man out, Channing Tatum returning as Gambit, which is interesting because we never actually saw Gambit in any of the Fox movies other than his representation in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but that wasn't this Channing Tatum version of the character. This is strongly suggesting a possibility of a sort of X-Men versus Avengers multiverse war storyline to prevent incursions. Like, I think maybe the X-Men universe is going to collide with our main 616 universe. And so you're going to have this, our main heroes fighting the X-Men in a very X-Men versus Avengers-esque feel to the comic book run to stop the incursion, the battle for whose world reigns supreme and gets to continue on existing. Another anchor point in my thinking of this takes us all the way back to 20th Century Fox's 2014 X-Men Days of Futures Past. After the events of that movie, we see Wolverine altering the timeline so that his consciousness wakes up in an alternate future in the year 2024 at the X-Mansion, where all of the X-Men, including those who died in the events of X2 and X3, X-Men The Last Stand, are alive again. We see Scott Summers, we see Jean Grey, we see Beast, we see Rogue, we see Kitty Pryde, we see Storm, we see Charles Xavier. So I think it's safe to say that we can assume that the events of X2 and X3 were altered and that Magneto and Mystique by the castings are still alive and they have somehow not lost their powers like they did in X3, or they've somehow regained them. Going to have massive effects and could potentially change the events of those two movies. And it could change it so much so that Nightcrawler, who wasn't seen in the movie after X2, chooses to stay a member of the X-Men and not leave and continue on with them in this reality. Based on the Marvel's end credit scene, many of those X-Men are likely from the same universe that Monica Rambeau ends up in, where we see Beast and Binary, which ends up being the same universe that Deadpool's in on, 10005, I think it is. And we don't know how the events of Deadpool and Wolverine affect that movie, because essentially the events of Deadpool and Wolverine take place 5 years before. Is it 5 years or 9 years? I can't remember the exact distance, but they take place before Logan. And we know that Hugh Jackman wanted to leave Logan intact because he loved Logan. And by all regards, Logan is received as a fantastic representation of a superhero movie. And we know that the events of Deadpool Wolverine, when Deadpool comes to dig up Wolverine, that's past that. So that's even further in the future. So at the end of at the end of Deadpool Wolverine, when we go back to their universe, essentially there are 2 points in time where two Logans now exist in that universe. So that could have some interesting effects on it. But Gambit is the one that's kind of a little less clear on everything, though. We know he survived the events of Deadpool and Wolverine. So like I said, it'll be interesting to see how much that movie affected that timeline. Ian McKellen's return as Magneto makes me think that the rumors that we heard a few months ago of a multiverse Illuminati led by Doctor Doom are potentially true. It also makes me think that McKellips, who was supposedly going to be part of that 838 Illuminati and Multiverse of Madness, was removed for this specific reason. It's interesting that they led off with Chris Hemsworth, showing me that Thor's kind of like that last original Avenger that's still around. Of the big three, Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. Iron Man's gone, Cap's retired, Thor's left, and he comes back to Earth after the events of Thor: Love and Thunder to find a new Avengers team assembled and being led by Sam Wilson. We all know that after the events of Loki season 2, Loki is now the new pretty much guardian or god of the sacred timeline. So let's discuss Loki and Thor a little bit. The Doomsday production title is For All Time Productions. That is pretty much the motto of the TVA, is it not? So I feel like that kind of hints at Loki's center role. A recent rumor suggests a race to reach Loki at the end of time is the main plot line of this movie. So you're going to see these teams, or a team versus another entity in the race for power and to potentially dethrone Loki at the end of time. With such a large cast, Doomsday will probably most likely have multiple storylines, with Doom trying to search out Loki while the Avengers handle the multiverse war and the incursions, and another group is trying to stop Doom from reaching Loki to protect the sacred timeline. And so, very much like we saw in Endgame, you had different people in different locations at different times. They weren't always all together. I really feel like with the extensive cast of 65 plus that they're saying we're going to get, that we're going to see something similar to a feel of how they shot Endgame. That kind of leaves the question of who else is racing to Loki. I think Thor's going to lead a team. Marvel confirmed that a Thor and Loki reunion is going to take place, and this could be it. It also aligns with the Time Runs Out comic storyline, where Thor leads a multi-universe Avengers team in a battle against the Beyonders, in a brutal battle that they end up losing their lives. I could see this being adapted for Doomsday, with Thor facing off against Doom's Illuminati or Doom's handpicked Avengers team at the end of time, with the reveal that the Sentry is sticking around. And I think the Sentry is a big throw into this. With that reveal that Sentry is going to be in this movie and sticking around after Thunderbolts, I could see him as a stand-in for Hyperion's role in this storyline. Or maybe his alter ego, the Void, is the key to somehow, enacting Doctor Doom's plan, where he uses his alter ego as the Void to potentially access the Void to create Battle World. And the Battle World is essentially created in the Void, where we see all these other X-Men characters that we've never seen before. Just a thought. I don't know. But could you imagine the audience reaction to this movie ending with Doctor Doom killing Thor and taking Loki's place and setting up Secret Wars? But then we have to wait a year to find out, like in the comics, the dead could be reborn on Battleworld. Just the movie ends much like Infinity War did, where Doom laying that final blow as Sentry and Thor go out in a blaze of glory and die at his feet. He takes Loki's lifeless body, chucks him off the throne, sits down, and the movie just ends with a shot of Doctor Doom sitting there. And it opens. Secret Wars opens with that same shot, but as we pan out, he's in the white cloak, and we get that shot from the leaks where he's got his sheriff with him, his Sheriff Strange next to him, Wanda, Franklin. We get that opening scene right there from those leaks. Would be amazing, I think, anyway. I just couldn't imagine. I know the fan reaction was of gasps and awe and like mind blowing at the end of Infinity War, but I think it gets amped up to 1,000 if you see Doom kill Thor, kill Sentry, essentially kill Loki, take his seat on the throne of time, and become God Emperor Doom. I think people would go absolutely bonkers for that. I've heard a lot of people saying with the leaks a few weeks back and why they haven't announced Spider-Man and Star-Lord and Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. Where's Rhodey? Where's Hulk? Where's Daredevil? Where's Vision? Where's Hawkeye? Where's Monica? We know where Monica Rambeau is. Where's Miss Marvel? Where's Captain Marvel? Where's Moon Knight? Where's all these other essential characters that the MCU has spent the last few years introducing to us? I think they're all coming, and I really get that feeling that the first group of announcements are all the heroes who will be involved in the events on Earth, and we'll get the announcement of other players, like I said, maybe at San Diego Comic-Con this summer. I think we're gonna get much like I think that these teams are going to be shot differently in different at different times. We're going to get their announcements too. So I think you're getting the announcement of like this one might be mix of like because the incursion is going to be this Fox universe versus our Avengers team. We're getting the big cast of announcements there. So it's gonna be like the Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts and Sam Wilson and Falcon and the X-Men are all going to be facing off here. Then we're going to get this other group announced that are going to be at another place and then potentially maybe even a third round of announcements. I don't know. I really think that San Diego Comic-Con this year, being it that it's on the same weekend that Fantastic Four comes out in theaters, is going to be a massive player in the announcement of or the continuation announcement of cast members and big news on these movies. I think the most interesting of them all, though, of the missing characters, is Spider-Man. It's been reported that new rumors suggest that the events of Spider-Man 4 are taking place at the same time as Avengers Doomsday. If you recall back to No Way Home, no one knows Peter Parker. That was the wish he made at the end, was that no one knew who Peter Parker was. So it kind of makes sense that since no one knows who Peter Parker is, let alone Spider-Man, or like that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, that he wouldn't be involved in the events of Doomsday because of that. So the other Avengers wouldn't reach out to him for help because they don't know. They know who Spider-Man is, but they don't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So essentially, they don't know how to get a hold of him. They can't just call him up, right? I don't know. I think we need more information there, but just kind of starting to make sense. But now, with all that out of the way, let me cook on this movie just a little bit because I have some maybe outlandish theories in regards to the connection to Doom and Tony Stark. So just hear me out. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't judge me for this. But this is just kind of where my mind started going when all this was announced. All right. So I'm going to cook. What if Doom is from a timeline like, say, the Fantastic Four, where the incursion was happening? The threat of Galactus is looming. Okay. We find out that he actually helped Reed Richards build the bridge because we know from the trailers and the San Diego Comic-Con footage that it looks like Reed Richards is working on time travel. He building the bridge, connection with the Illuminati, the Council of Reeds. Okay. And they use that to look into other timelines. As the Fantastic Four are dealing with the looming threat of Galactus and the events of that movie, Doom is using it to try to find a way to prevent the incursion and stumbles across the X-Men universe of 10005. What if he sees the events of Kitty Pryde sending Logan back in time through his consciousness in Days of Futures Past, and he finds a way using the bridge of time travel of his own to connect himself to a different version of himself, a version that was adopted by, say, a Howard Stark and his wife who were reeling after the loss of their unborn son. We find out that Tony Stark is effectively a Doom variant, a Doctor Doom variant. Doom's consciousness enters Stark's body just as Tony snaps in the battle at the end of Avengers Endgame. The power of the Infinity Stones sends Doctor Doom's consciousness back into his original body, but leaves him disfigured, much in the way that Hulk and Tony Stark were after using the Infinity Gauntlet. In this, he also retains some of Tony's memories. So with all of this knowledge, he escapes his dying universe, and this leads him to returning to his home world of Latveria, or homeland of Latveria, building a suit of armor much like in the same vein of Tony Stark's Iron Man armor to be able to stand up to the likes of Earth's mightiest heroes. And now that he starts time hopping, he's learning about Loki and the TVA, and he sets out to make the world in his image and sets out to find Loki at the end of time and seek out ultimate power. Now, I'm not saying that's how that's going to work, but that's just what I think about when I'm hearing all these castings and I start thinking about, the time runs out storyline, Original Sin, 2015 Secret Wars, all these different books that are rolling into these movies. And then the Russos saying that death of Tony Stark is going to have an impact and directly affect Doom. Well, it just all kind of starts making a little bit of sense. Outlandish as it is and sounds, I know. But I just think that there's so many possibilities with this movie and so many characters that are potentially left off that are still going to come in that I can't wait for more. And I'm interested to see what other cast members they announce and to see how those leaks images come into play. But that's just my thought in my theories on Doctor Doom, the casting announcements for Avengers Doomsday, and what could potentially take place to connect Doctor Doom to Tony Stark, and why Robert Downey Jr. was the perfect pick and had to be Doom, and just kind of cooking on it. Let me know your theories in the comments section below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast. If you want more from us, make sure to check out some more of the links here if you want more comic book knowledge. And on that note, until next week, have a great night.